Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We have two terrific poets with us today, Rich Ferguson and Kathleen Florence. Rich will read first. Pushcart nominated poet Rich Ferguson has shared the stage with Patti Smith, Wanda Coleman, and other esteemed poets and musicians. Ferguson was selected by the National Beat Poetry Foundation to serve as a U.S. Beat Poet Laureate 2023-24 and the State of California Beat Poet Laureate September 2020 to September 2022. In 2022, he received an Artist in Resident grant from the Valparaiso Foundation in Spain. He is a featured performer in the film What About Me, featuring Michael Stipe, Michael Franti, K.D. Lang, and others. His poetry and award-winning spoken word music videos have appeared in numerous anthologies and festivals, and he was a winner in Opium Magazine's Literary Death March LA. He is the author of the poetry collections Eighth and Agony, Punk Hostage Press, Everything is Radiant, Between the Hates, Moontide Press, and the novel New Jersey Me, Rare Bird Books. Ferguson is the lead editor of an anthology of California poets entitled Beat Not Beat, Moontide Press. Here's an inventive, riveting, wonderful poet, Rich Ferguson.
All right. We're back now. Thank you so much, Harry, for having me on the show. And the poems that I'm going to be reading today are from my forthcoming collection on Moontide Press entitled Somewhere Playground, which will be released in July of this year. And it's basically, in thinking about America, my own life, it's kind of my personal reckoning with grief, resilience, and a testament to human spirit, not only my own, but sort of collective human spirit and the refusal to break. This is called Love Up. Our mothers have gifted us with our first breath, and death will take our last. Between those moments, we are so many things: cradle, cosmos, convicts in our skin. We romp, we stomp, we bark and lark, slip and slide, shadow and cry, sparkle and choir, and all the ways love burns. Rise and shine, shine your rise up the love, love up. Love is feather-footed, a rumble and tumble jumble, a radio oasis, a dance floor float along. Love is the starting whistle at the honey factory, a groove, a mood, a bad tattoo removed, an ocean of devotion with a watermark of wow. Rise and shine, shine your rise up the love, love up. Voice is love's voltage to energize and empower our lives. With a well-honed noun or verb, we can sweep someone off their feet, but when adjectives turn tragic, we're swept under the rug. Sometimes we speak in hushed tones when reciting poems, prayers, or lullabying a child. I like it when we're loud, when we sound like gasoline saints in the combustible church of cool. Rise and shine, shine your rise up the love, love up. Bring back the troubled and addicted, those who fall in despair first into the pill or whiskey bottle. Bring back the devastated and immolated, those who've leapt from bridges and hotel windows, believing such a sudden exit from existence is the only way to live. Bring back the war-dead and disease-stricken, the homeless and impoverished, traumatized children and their broken mothers, anyone who's ever been left shipwrecked by affection. Rise and shine, shine your rise up the love, love up. All you misfits and singers, street sweepers and wisdom seekers, the voiceless and choiceless, truth deniers and doom defiers, the opulent and oppressed, overworked nurses and armchair numismatists, rock collectors, rock guitarists, those whose inner child has ever suffered from a bad hair day. Shake off your chains, strip out of your doubts, open your doors, your hearts, come down off your mountains, emerge from the underground, fill your pockets with love's many syllables so we may discover brighter, more beautiful ways to be. Rise and shine, shine your rise up the love, love up. Love shine, shine your tune, uprise, heart bloom. Peace up, love thee up. Love your voice, love your shine, rise and shine, shine your rise, up the love, love up. And this is the title poem from Somewhere a Playground. When bullets grew wings that day and flew through school, we thought it was the sound of hammers falling. Bad day to be a child, printing upper and lowercase letters, learning the cycles of the sun and moon and how to take turns. Addition meant putting things together, subtraction, taking them away. Bullet plus body equals blood, body minus blood equals gone. But don't call us ghosts. Don't think of our bodies in tiny caskets filled with stuffed unicorns and plush puppies forever unnamed. Color us alive where bullets don't fly. A playground filled with monkey bar love. Children crisscross applesauce beneath a tree, breaking into pieces the words of this big world, sounding them out. While walking my students to recess, I noticed one of my fifth grade girls wearing a Nirvana t-shirt. I ask if she's ever heard of the band. She shakes her head no. I grab my phone, pull up YouTube. This is one of their most famous songs, I say, Smells Like Teen Spirit. This makes my student giggle. She's transfixed by how the song's chunka guitar and thunderous drum intro bottoms out to a whisper during the verse. As Kurt Cobain sings, I tell my student, he was a great songwriter, a great singer. My student notices my use of the verb was and offers a curious look. He's no longer with us, I say. He took his own life. That's sad, she says. I agree. I wish he were still with us, I say. He would have written so many great songs, had so many more great things to say. My student and I continue watching the video, mesmerized as Cobain intones, hello, 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 how low, hello, 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 how low. During this quiet part, I tell my student, wait for it. Pretty soon, things are going to get loud. My student's eyes widen. The song's tension continues building. Hello, 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 how low. Again, I tell my student, wait for it. When the song's chorus avalanches us, my student and I are beaming like we've got bells in our blood. So yeah, I say, pointing at her Nirvana tee, that's a great shirt. She glances down at the band logo, smiling like she's the newly coronated Cinderella of the audio ball. Thanks, she says, then runs off to play. Remember when we shared the same breath and were one? When we shared a language that defied hungry ghosts, or when we swam together in wild waters that could not drown us? Since our fall from grace, we have lost kinship with innocence. We have experienced so many variations of original sin that its taste has become far, far from original. These paradises we have burned and abandoned have collapsed into a Garden of Eden, now bleeding a complex geometry where parallel lines of love and consideration contend with irrational proportions of emotional, physical neglect and constriction. Non-complementary angles of sexism versus fairness, those seeking domination battle it out with those seeking collaboration in the multi-dimensional arena of our human condition. When seeking union between the sexes, one must learn to transform opposition into empowerment, cruelty into congruency, create ratios of respect, equilateral equality, a more perfect circle. One that unifies, strives to heal this wound of being human, for we are quick to anger, slow to heal, dragging our inner rivers for the body of evidence that can free us from the gridlocked and mind-locked madness of our Garden of Eden now bleeding. The place where one confuses the highly personal with the universal, retunes enlightenment to a TV reality where we can't stop looking at our phones, even when in the presence of redemption in our Garden of Eden now bleeding. Hear the gunfire and continual cry of sirens, witness our struggles to grow beyond our insanities and instabilities, new bones sprouting from old burdens, psyches surviving alley fights with a world gone rogue, carving intellects sharp enough and weapon enough to save ourselves from the dangerous primal instincts breeding in our Garden of Eden now bleeding. That we may one day untether ourselves from this mothership of madness, float off into harmonic stardust, witness ourselves in the cracked mirror moon, realizing that despite it all, we have the potential to become beautiful and unbroken. That beyond our Garden of Eden now bleeding, our flowers of good fortune can flourish, even as our world devolves into deserts of destruction, that we can sleep with fire and wake up the right kind of bright. And we can return to innocence, and from innocence to shadow, and we can return to shadow, and from shadow to the river, and we can return to the river, and from the river to the crossroads, from the crossroads to song, from song to heart, from heart to a home where a new union between man and man and woman and woman and man and woman can blossom, souls guided by plant instinct, a tenacious desire to rise, root, voice, a journey from oblivion into brilliance. Our seed smiles, a multiplying joy. In our new Garden of Eden, no longer bleeding, remember to let the flowers grow, but pull away the weeds before they tower over us on this spinning ball of eroding and beautiful blue. What St. Christopher told me while traveling Route 666. Utopia is going into foreclosure. Utopia wears a bulletproof vest at all hours. Utopia has a hair trigger rage, shoot first and ask questions later. Utopia is out of shape, can't touch its toes or do sit-ups. Utopia has hidden agendas no TSA agent can detect. Utopia got caught pouring sugar into optimism's gas tank. Utopia got caught transporting underage optimism across state lines. Utopia has transformed its Zen garden into an Olive Garden. When utopia looks in the mirror, all it sees is dystopia. Utopia refuses to offer room service in the hearts wounded hotel. Utopia has a functional Ponzi scheme for every dysfunctional season. Utopia has bones made of muzak. It does the purgatory soft shoot. Utopia has served jail time with all of Florida's banned books. Utopia commits self-immolation, believing it's the only way to achieve enlightenment. Utopia has hopped the last train of thought out of town, leaving the rest of us to pay all its bills and back taxes. Utopia has forgotten how to cast the movie of a perfect life, but is more than willing to cast the first stone. Utopia has written its last will and testament in disappearing ink. Utopia says there's something in the water, something in the air, something in the way we're living that's making us lose our minds. Utopia suffers from paranoia, despair, and disillusionment. Utopia ain't what it used to be. What good conscience says at the dinner table between mouthfuls of light. Because the enemy sleeps with eyes open and heart closed. Because our head and hands don't always get along. Because the belly of the beast sometimes resembles the interior of our past apartments. Because there's a memory tied around our finger that won't allow us to forget the broken parts of our past. Because it's hard for our arms to embrace shadows, because shadows sometimes wear our bodies better than we do. Because wounds come in all shapes, sizes, and kisses. Because fire is at the heart of our yeses, and yeses don't always survive the rain. Because sometimes the only language we can communicate in is falling. Because fire is at the heart of our yeses, and yeses, as I've said, don't always survive the rain and the summers. And because there are not enough desert winds to eliminate sorrow's footsteps, we continue to be that air in search of a clear blue sky. What confounds us? What we know to the depths of our soul. What makes the soles of our feet burn? What our pain is and what we do with it. What we do for love. What animals made for life. What weapons will look like in 100 years. What our history of violence tells us. What time whispers in our ear when another year slips by. What slips between our fingers, between the cracks. What cracks us up. What gets us up out of bed every morning. What we see when we look in the mirror. What to do for a broken heart. What to do if your what if machine breaks. What we can learn from our mistakes. What we can learn from the color of a star, what we wish for when we wish upon a star. What truths are self-evident, what our parents aren't telling us, what our politicians aren't telling us, what to do to cleanse your colon, what to do to cleanse your soul, what to take for a yeast infection or erectile dysfunction, what a dangling or misplaced modifier looks like in a sentence, what a prison inmate's life sentence costs the average taxpayer, what it costs to build a house, what it costs to buy a house, what Lincoln said about a house divided, what Shakespeare said about destiny and the stars. What scars we wear proudly, what wounds we keep hidden deep, what we've lied about, rioted about, what we have remained absolutely quiet about. What the coroner's report will say about us when we're gone, what our family, friends, and coworkers will say about us when we're gone, what to do to get turned on, what to do when you're turned off, what made Van Gogh cut off his ear, what paint colors go together or make people look more beautiful, what it really means when people say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What eye color is most sensitive to light, what it takes to power Times Square, what 9/11 looked like from outer space, what you can and can't take on airplanes or eat while pregnant, what role folic acid plays in pregnancy, what acid taught Timothy Leary, what we should and shouldn't be leery of. What meditation does to the brain, what cancer does to the brain, what we know about wisdom versus intelligence, what we know about ignorance versus stupidity, what stupid things people do with their smartphones, what guys do that drive women crazy, what women do that drive guys crazy, what it really means when a guy says he's scared, what it really means when a woman says, fine. What degree of separation you are from Tom Waits versus Tom Cruise, what your taste in music or movie says about you, what the chicken says when crossing the road, what we've done for kicks on Route 66, what 666 means to a mathematician versus a devil worshiper, a biblical scholar, what prayers to say for abundance, what prayers to say for healing, what we'll be handing over to the next generation, what we've handed over as a bribe, peace offering, evidence, what the witness saw, what the victim saw, what the shooter saw when staring down the barrel of his rifle, what we see when looking up at the clouds, what we see when looking down deep into ourselves. What was said at the reunion of deathbed wishes. I want to seek out tomorrows that drink optimism, straight no chaser. I want to dress our deepest sorrows and easy to shed miseries, remove all billboards from the overcrowded highways of our minds. I want to prove that white noise loves black jazz, that Mr. Rogers was a CIA operative hired to test the limits of human kindness. If the reason dogs howl is because it's far easier than reciting Ginsberg's Howl by memory. I want to create drive-through therapy for when we just need a to-go cup of healing, build monuments to love letters still written by hand, offer landmark status to all remaining phone booths. I want to build bookstores on Mars, underground libraries for bookworms, create bright playgrounds in the cloudy eyes of the dying. I want to expose all false idols for being truly idle, recycle old lies into lions guarding the gates of greatness, televise the next revolution without any commercials, create a medication to remove all self-inflicted blemishes from our conscience, drop poetry bombs into lives without enlightenment. I want to swap eyes with a stranger to see how others witness life. And this is called, gotta have a piece about LA in here. This is called Live and Die in LA. I'm built from Tongva plant medicine, ayahuasca and psilocybin-powered sound bath ceremonies, the amped-up grit and glitz of the Sunset Strip, from the living electricity of Jim Morrison at the Whiskey A Go-Go to River Phoenix's deep dive into Overdose at the Viper Room. My bones have been broken by car crashes, Starwood punk rock mosh pits, and the 1943 Zoot Suit riots. My skin is flesh with bits of shells, tiles, soda bottles, mirrors, and shards of pottery embedded in the Watts Tower spires. I'm earthquake and handshake, heartbreak, and that big break. My veins move through me like Laurel Canyon's paisley bricked and bougainvillea lined road, running from sunset to the valley, reverberating song cycles of Neil Young and Joni Mitchell. Built by this city, blood and breath of this city, live and die in LA. My DNA luxuriates in cryofacial thermal shock float tank bliss, imprinted with moon juice super you, the tragedy and tears of the Cecil Hotel, the bebop rapture of Louis Armstrong at the Cotton Club, and that moment of genius when Mingus decided to drop the cello and take up the bass. I'm Wildfires and Richard Pryor, free basing, ketamine therapy and colorful sneakers, Malibu beaches and Melrose, boutiques, retro glamour meets modern edge, fusion cuisine and Lincoln Heights Latino history. I'm the Runyon Buddha, Angel's Flight and Biddy Mason's free papers, Little Persia to Panorama City, Baldwin Hills to Boyle Heights. At Florence and Normandy, I gather bruises, cinder blocks, and beer bottles, transform them into sustainable jewelry of healing gestures. Built by this city, blood and breath of this city, live and die in LA. I'm DTLA, young moneyed hipsters in the aging homeless, wild gardening and antidepressant interior decorating, Radiohead, supersonic soaring, the Hollywood Bowl, Miles Davis grounded at LAX for drug possession. I'm 27th Street Bakery, sweet potato pie, sweat and panic and angular sunglasses, trying to look more movie star than Maniac, a down and out angel released from Men's Central Jail, doing double shifts of the Feather Factory to earn new wings. I'm street gangs and street racing, the romp and stomp of the Silver Lake Dog Park. My heart is always open like Cantor's Deli. I've been healed by Phil Spector's wall of sound and broken by his wall of guns. Built by this city, blood and breath of this city, live and die in LA. I cruise the airwaves like Rodney on the rock, old school, cool like the Rat Pack and Musso and Franks. I'm Beyonce, dining at Stella, Zoe Kravitz, drinking at Delilah, ice baths and espresso, bookstores and power yoga, rising rents and unaffordable housing, striking actors, writers and teachers, Dodger, Southpaw, Clayton Kershaw, striking out batters, panting pit bulls and police reports, archive deep cuts, knife cuts, and all kinds of cults. I'm promising as an Echo Park Lake sunrise, durable as Buster Keaton's star on Hollywood Boulevard, lasting as the psychic wounds reverberating from Japanese internment camps on the road leading from Hollywood Forever Cemetery and its celebrated dead whose ghostly inflections are used as otherworldly driving directions. Built by this city, blood and breath of this city, live and die in LA. Built by this city, blood and breath of this city, live and die in LA. Thank you, Harry. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Richard, for your lyrical, loving, unending narrative. You're a carrier of conscience, and you just you have an all-embracing spirit, and it's your poetry is a prayer for healing. You take us to the breakage and you take us to utopia, and you're connected with pop culture, but even a deeper soulful level. And it's just fabulous.
Thank you.
It's riveting, it's transfixing, and you have such compassion inside of you, and sagacity as well. So
love that word.
You're fabulous, and you just root us right to your words and your sound. And I have a lot of questions I could ask you, but we have to move on to Kathleen.
Yeah.
But I just want to thank you for for allowing us to immerse ourselves in your mind and your hopes and your conscience and your wisdom. And,
thank you.
All the way from Nirvana, to the stars. I love Teen Spirit. I heard it was based on Over the Edge, but that's another story. Thank you,
another time.
Ferguson.
Thank you.
Our next poet, Kathleen Florence. Kathleen Florence writes poetry and tells stories with digital images and stage productions. Her poetry book, Prayers with a Side of Cash, is being published by Moontide Press in 2025, and her writing and visual art has appeared in Cultural Daily, Paris Lit Up, and anthologies published by NYC's Great Weather for Media and Three Rooms Press. Kathleen was selected for the Valparaiso Artist Residency in Spain, is a recipient of Canada Arts Council and Ontario Arts Council grants for poetry and theater, and won the Evan Hughes Playwright Award for her script, Who Killed the Curator? The writer has worked in arts and entertainment for decades, including production design, publicity, casting, fundraising, animation. Her short films have been screened in LA, Toronto, and Quebec City. Her poetry is loving, poignant, revelatory. Here's a marvelous poet, Kathleen Florence.
Thank you so much, Harry. That's so sweet. Thank you for that introduction. Yes, as you already mentioned, we have, Rich and I both have books coming out this summer from Moontide Press. Fabulous. I'm going to give a little shout out to them. Fabulous, California-based independent publisher. And there's like 14 books coming out this year. So Rich and I have ours coming out. And I think this is our first shared feature, which we're going to be doing more of this summer. So this is the first time for us to really listen in and how our poems interact with each other and speak to each other. And I'm going to just jump right in and say that, first I'll say that the Prayers with a Side of Cash was inspired by my drive across America in 2024, coming out to California. And so I'm just going to start with one of the most obvious ones, which is a road trip poem. There are more routes than 66. Because Jack could have been Jackie if tables had been laid differently, with stories dished to suit pinker tongues. The songbook of recipes rides shotgun, penned by grandmothers who rode stormy ocean waves into beginnings unknown, as if they knew this life is for going places, should you want to make it home. I'm steering my ship with sound. I've been everywhere is loud, for ancestors riding with me through veins pumping red, bound to turn purple, burst into flowers, push through unseen spaces along paved roads, smile through cracked toothed ditches, even as they are called mere weeds. As my song list flips from Cash to Breeders to Alabama Shakes, I remember names taught to me by those with hands in the ground. Names like Cornflower, Bee-Bomb, and my favorite, Dame Rocket. Yeah, Jack, that's me. Madison thumbs a ride. I fall for the wide-legged pants, two-finger peace sign. She is alone on the road, marketing her resistance to fear. She is a woman, not a bear, which we joke about while wildfires burn north of Washington, D.C. On her way to see family, after a decade in San Francisco, Madison tells me she was ready to be free after her mother died, but an older sister rattled in her dream. She leans out the window when talking about Somerville. I see that wide, airy porch, lazy as a Tuesday afternoon pool table, corner pocket rocking chair, 30-minute drive to the ocean. My passenger smiles, saying this world spins counterclockwise, so why does our perception of time move inexorably forward? This is something to hum about. As traffic turns to midnight, stranger turns to story, and lights in the opposite direction dare to blind me. Something borrowed, something blue. Let me share a secret, my dear girl, who is not mine, but shares the same color of sky in her eyes. Your dreams are dancing metaphors, sacred prayers that can't be shamed away. They will repeat, replay, rerun until waking life, traveling around our sun, ripens in response. I know those girls in white dresses have been pulling focus for ages, but a bridal veil is threshold, not destination. Your garden needs attention. There are blossoms waiting to apple. I've seen your dreams. You wear them on t-shirts. They arrive in lines gathering at the edges of your eyes. I know this gift isn't on your registry, and belonging to each other by blood can be messy. Our 24 years of history comes down to sharing one hospital chair when the doctor opened my dead mother's eyes. What else could I give you than to be with you when we witness the absence of bloom? It is the same gift given to me. You can see it in our mirrors, shining. Glenda travels light. It's the seashell bracelets on her wrist that catch my attention. Her tiny backpack and smell of patchouli oil isn't strong, and she isn't going too far, and I am tired. My thoughts are starting to feel like a phonograph. So I invite Glenda to come along, and she tells me about making her way around the world one country at a time. Fresh from Africa, she shows me drawings on her phone, and everything she owns, she says, has been given away or is at her mother's home in Santa Barbara. She is 60, unmarried, and unlike the women who throw showers for babies, she's off to Tibet next, but first a stop to see an old friend who lives in the desert and tells fortunes over the internet. I share my lunch with Glenda, and she tells me about bartending in Fiji. It all feels so simple, so light. And yes, sometimes she is lonely. Peeling the banana slowly, she adds, that's grief. It comes and goes, and a good talk helps to lighten the load. The silence that follows in the car smells of summer pavement after rain. Highway with a side of Angel's Motel. We roll up to record this place, falling for the Johnny Cash Cadillac shining under the motel sign missing an A. It came down during a recent windstorm. So hip, we agree, collect the room key for a room unextraordinary but wholly clean. You nap and I brush my teeth in the next room, where I hear an acoustic guitar through the metal vent. A neighbor's 3-chord waltz and singing. Have I heard this before in a Coen Brothers movie? It moves me to climb on top of the vanity, press my ear into the voice of someone I hope is in love. I am a priest in a confessional waiting for the next murmur of some solo heart's desire when you wander in, wondering what it is I'm listening for way up here. Now we're both balancing in socked feet, sweetly keeping each other from slipping when all is quiet, too quiet, as if the singer is listening back. Our eyes widen. We stop breathing and hear a whisper. The holy ones, behold they come. I hear the voice of wings. You spring back shocked and I swallow a laugh until we are in the next room, falling onto the bed, kissing and letting all our words and letters go, harmonizing until we angel into one sweet song. It is a blessing. May these days pass slowly, the way cacti grows slowly, the way the sun warms the mountain, olive trees where once almonds grew. May our days here be blessed with kind coo dove song, cicada buzz and chickens bringing fresh eggs into the world. May these cloudless skies, summer kisses, and deep sea moonlight walking in white flower gardens give us peace, help us sleep, make us stronger in our Sunday faith. Where wild rabbit dancing on graves of ghost singing, the mystery we've traveled 4,000 miles to fill our dreams. Along a dried riverbed, into a city of doorways bending to the sun, our hands find each other in darkness, and God is known again. An old friend, the goodness that keeps us safe, it is a blessing. Cause to eat oranges. Here they are, given away freely, samples at Sunday's market, sliced and piled high in bouquets with a range of flavors to pick from, large pieces, bright as carnivals, ready to eat. It takes teeth to tear away what's inside. It takes a strong tongue to crush the sweetness into the roof of my mouth where summer stings fresh. Oranges picked yesterday, so different from the ones I knew back east that took weeks to reach a supermarket shelf. Slumped by a long ride in dark boxes that faded their flavor every hour, these oranges are ready to release themselves into the world today, into a mouth that isn't hungry but is asking for joy. Yesterday, I heard a man say he won't write about flowers or birds until rules are shaped to the arc of his foot. I wonder at how the ground keeps rounding as we keep walking and words keep finding ways to ripen. Here they are. Here they are. Thick skin bias. She is not walking into an ocean, acclimatizing to a hot summer day. Her skin will not grow armor. Poor people do not have thicker skin. Poverty does not make us stronger. There is no badge of honor given at the shelter. We will not get used to it. We do not need less help, less love, or less attention because our homes are smaller, shoes are older, or a car is marked by accident we cannot afford to fix. Prayers with a side of cash will not be answered faster to suit comforts of others. Those prayers are not better or more important than anyone who owns less junk. This culture schooled in nostalgia for waste, fake love, and plastic compassion have thick skin bias. Middle-class credit card debt, neurotic nursery rhymes, keeping us all up late at night. Sugar plum stories about pulling up bootstraps, benefits of hard knocks, and this dream realized if we work a little harder, never mentioning those who must lose for those who will win. From cemetery rows to unpaid alimony, sacrifice sounds nice on a Sunday with a flyer. Ava of America. She is a cool girl in knee-high red boots and a fringe hanging from the rim of her sequin hat. It's an act, and she's on break, fake smoking Marlboros in the back where I've wandered looking for my car. She asks where I'm heading. I tell her. Wait for the line about catching a ride, but it doesn't come. She doesn't ask where I'm from. Instead, she wants to know if I'm on the run. I hook a thumb in the small pocket of my decade-old skinny jeans and answer, no. She holds my gaze, looking to see if I really am a rebel without a cause. I lift my chin to say, I'm full of causes, brimming with reasons. It's been 60 years, only 60 years, since the Equal Pay Act was passed and women are still paid less than men. She inhales her cigarette and it comes back out slowly. Her mouth is a smoking gun. Never breaking eye contact in a showdown between the girl on stage and the girl watching. We are the same person at this moment. And this one is a few years old, but I wanted to include it in today's reading as a shout out to artists that I have known since I started this wild ride in my 20s, a long time ago. Artists I know live in old buildings, studio spaces, have slept in strange places, on friends' couches long after a certain age. They make friends with pigeons, carrying around studios and bags, pulling their work into coffee shop where there is heat. Artists I know wear tight shoes for their own opening when they are young and full of potential, friends at the cheese table grinning, this is really living the dream. Artists I know have picked groceries from dumpsters, swiped paper from posters, exchanging collage with a friend. Jealous and ambitious, working morning hours, waking before the sun. They preach on city corners, run mad at midnight hours, tell you stories that will make your heart burst. Artists I know drum songs with chopsticks, improvise in kitchens, on subways, in parks. Those who have grown old know fool's gold, making a life that has no hero, unless bird and tree be hero, making mentor of a rising sun. Artists I know stop, say hello, text, message, photograph, ignore. They never go anywhere, never see anyone, never tell you jack shit about how they feel until they are on stage, playing a part, instrument, showing up in their own photograph, scribbled drawing, first film. Sending postcards to each other and to their family for a while, but then that stops because some family never say thank you for your art. Artists I know have fallen down crying themselves to sleep lonely alone, wondering why some people have all the luck, why some people have good parents and others don't. Artists with no legs and no arms who have painted landscapes, boats, waves, others who carry their life on their backs, moving from one place to another when rent gets too high again. teaching other artists to dance by lifting their arms, never saying that is wrong or do it this way, but rather do it again and again. Do you love it? Do what you love. I know artists who hate what they do for a while, for a time, and then fall in love again in that moment when falling in love is possible, when mind finds a bridge. Artists who burn bridges, slam doors, quit jobs, get fired, break chairs, get married, carry divorce, have children, and leave their spouse when death comes. Some that sing on city streets, sing to a half-baked moon, talk to aliens, break traditions, carry a torch, contradict, start fights, fall in love once again, and join celibacy school as a sign of protest. Artists who wash cars on street corners, have day jobs, and still believe when there's time. I know artists who sleep under moon's uncertainty, wake up in storms, and start again. And I think I have time for just one more. This one is called Edge of the Universe. White light burning, fire hydrant helium, oxygen, carbon, neon, iron, avocado. You cannot land here, Eclipse. Every 11 or 22 years, magnetic fields outward flow, solar wind, dipolar, solar, spiral, sunspots, minima found in rings of trees, rings to please the fingers, lifespan, double or nothing, lifespan of 10 billion years. Is 10 billion years enough? Getting hotter, supernova, shockwave from compression, collapse under gravity, rotate, make heat. Our sun orbits the center of the Milky Way. A galaxy that doesn't orbit anything. Anything doesn't know itself. What's your cosmic address? Have I seen you here before? 4 main poles: Saturn, Uranus, Jupiter, Neptune, suffering, desire, detachment, path. 4 faces, 4 horsemen, 4 mothers, foretold, 4 birds and tame them, 4 hills from the Father, 4 will summon them home. Pottery of sun people, chambers, legs, limbs, stages of metamorphosis, typical movements in a symphony. The one we are writing, the one that I play for you, the one you sing in my rib. Add, subtract, multiply, divide, leap year spectacle side by side, lunar directions playing cards, highways, cube, medicine wheels, spinning on Earth's axis, revolving around our sun, which orbits an eclipse, an ellipse round. Center of the Milky Way, pulled toward Andromeda, push around inside supercluster Lanikia. Nothing is stationary. Gas clouds, dust grains, black holes, dark matter. Are we turtles? Are we flush? Are we speeding up in between regions of densities, dates, corners, and Ys? In the ever-expanding black box theater, 4 legs, 4 wheels, 4-letter word, you are my dialogue dream, exploding with me, the greatest show yet.
Thank you, Kathleen, for such a wonderful reading. Your poetry has harmony, tenderness, clarity. You know, you're just fabulous. And there's tenderness in your poetry too. You know, when did you write your first poem?
Well, goodness, I remember writing back in starting off at university, being inspired by that movie Dead Poets Society. That was very popular when I was in high school, and I was trying to write poetry at that time, like in trying to express bigness using big words and big ideas, and it was horrible. It was terrible, terrible stuff. I didn't understand how to find the bigness in the small things at that yet. So I took a little detour from that and did more theater and focused more on that. But when there were opportunities for open mics and there were opportunities for readings, I kept coming back to it and trying again. And there's so much to learn from poetry that it weaves into other forms of writing. A great script or a great story is a great poem, I think.
You mentioned theater. Were you an actor?
No, not really. I mean, I started off trying to do that, and then I decided what I really wanted to do was write and direct. So that's what I focused on more. Yeah.
What is it about the poetry form that attracts you to it?
Well, I think at this point in my life, it's so accessible, and it's such a great way to have community. Anybody can access poetry, and it's universal. Every culture experiences poetry differently. So there's just all these great ways to go into different communities and different cultures to understand each other, the universe, the bigness and the smallness through poetry. You can say that about other art forms too. I know that there is so much crossover. But yeah, I think what I really enjoy about poetry at this point is that it's just a really beautiful way to spend our days being poets. I mean, it's the highest art form, I think, but I don't want to take away from everything else. I just think it's the nucleus, of everything else that we're doing. What do you think?
Rilke said something about poetry being the deepest essence of the being, and you also use particulars, and as I mentioned, you're empathetic in your poetry, which I love. Before you started writing poetry in a serious, regular way, who were some of the poets who influenced you?
There was actually, I'm just going to pull it up right now. I had thought about, but I didn't know if I should or not. I thought about actually reading a poem. I'm not going to read it now, but I want to make sure I have the right name here. When I was in my, I don't know, 20, like late 20s, and I was living in downtown Toronto, I lived around the corner from a park that was dedicated to Gwendolyn McEwen. I don't know if you know that name. She wrote over 20 books of poetry, plays, novels, and she died at the age of 46. So she was able to do quite a lot in such a short amount of time. And actually, do I have time to quickly read one of her poems?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. This is Gwendolyn McEwen's, it was written in 1972 or around there. And it's called The Armies of the Moon, it's called Memoirs of a Mad Cook from her book, The Armies of the Moon. There's no point kidding myself any longer. I just can't get the knack of it. I suspect there's a secret society that meets in dark cafeterias to pass on the art from one member to another. Besides, it's so personal preparing food for someone's insides. What can I possibly know about someone's insides? How can I presume to invade your blood? I'll try. God knows I'll try. But if anyone watches me, I'll scream because maybe I'm handling a tomato wrong. But how can I know if I'm handling a tomato wrong? Something is eating away at me with splendid teeth. Wistfully, I stand in my difficult kitchen and imagine the fantastic salads and souffle that will never be. Everyone seems to grow thin with me, and their eyes grow black as hunters' eyes and search my face for sustenance. All my friends are dying of hunger. There is some basic dish I cannot offer, and you, my love, are always as lean as the splendid wolf I must keep always at my door.
Oh, that's beautiful. Rich?
Fantastic writer. Yeah,
that was beautiful. Rich, you want to come on the show for a few minutes? You and I and Florence will talk. Why don't each one of you say a little bit about the other's poetry? Florence, that you just read, say a few things about Rich, and then Rich say something about your poetry. We have about 4 minutes to talk. So, Kathleen?
Be gentle.
What can I say about Rich's poetry? My goodness. I think he has definitely influenced my writing since I became aware of his work. I did a review of his last book put out by Moontide Press, and I looked so deeply into it. I love these poems. And then I looked at the bigger picture and I saw it was in 8 parts. And there's so much about the moon in that book of poetry of Rich's. And so I wrote this response to it and said, these are 8 stages of the moon. That's what this is about. And then it got published in Sensitive Skin and it came out. And then later, Rich and I were talking and I said, so did you plan this book of 8 stages of the moon? He said, no. No, he didn't. That was my interpretation of it. But I still think that, like, on a subconscious level, that's what was going on. I'm not sure. But yes, Rich is everything you said before, Harry, about how it just spans from the pop culture to the mind-blowing use of imagery and thoughtfulness and philosophy is what really attracts me to his writing and to him as a human being. I mean, his poetry is him, I think.
Beautiful. Rich?
Wow, that's a hard act to follow. Yeah, I mean, there's really so much to love and appreciate about Kathleen and her poetry. Harry, you said an interesting word earlier, clarity. And that's something that really comes through, especially as I was listening today, Kathleen. It's interesting because I was like really kind of listening with new ears, and almost like I was an audience member and just appreciating so many, like the lyricism, and also the clarity comes through not only the writing, but your delivery. Like there is such a presence and clarity and a rhythm to how you deliver your poetry that I really admire. And I was like really getting into it. I was like, go Kathleen, this is great. And, coming from Canada to Los Angeles, because the Los Angeles poetry community is new for you. And I really think you've held your own and are really carving your own space within the LA poetry community. And it's a really beautiful thing to see. And it's, a lot of that is just who you are as a person and your heart, but a lot of it is just your writing, and it's strong. It stands on its own 2 feet. It's and I'm so happy that we're both. I'm so happy that we're both coming out with books and doing more events like this. Live and over Zoom, where we get to read and perform together. It's fun. I was sitting here today. It's just like, wow, this is fun. This is going to be something that I'll really love to do over and over.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, Harry, for giving us the opportunity, the first chance to do this together in quite some time.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. It's been a beautiful reading, and I just love what both of you wrote and how you presented it. It's really a thrill. Next Tuesday, Paul Evangelisti, Corinne Conley, Bill Moore, and Phoebe McAdams will read George Oppen's On Being Numerous. George Oppen was an objectivist, and he valued clarity too. And so this has just really been a off the charts reading for you and for us to feel the pleasure that you give us with your poetry. And thank you once again, Kathleen Florence, Rich Ferguson, and here's our wonderful director, Jennifer Clymer.
Thank you guys so much. That was wonderful. We've got Cinephiles up next, but hopefully we get to see the two of you soon again and out here at the campus once more.